Previously, Hinazuki, the girl Satoru has been trying to save, has mysteriously disappeared, and he knows something bad happened to her. Satoru goes to Hinazuki's house when she fails to show up at school, but finds no one there. He then searches for her in places she frequently goes but can't find her. He notices footsteps in the snow and feels hopeless. Sachiko tries to comfort Satoru, telling him it's not his fault that Hinazuki's gone. Satoru feels guilty and thinks he could have done more to help Hinazuki. He sees a poster of a missing child, Nakanishi Aya, and realizes that the timelines are starting to converge. Satoru goes back to Hinazuki's house and sees her mother taking out the garbage. She smiles and goes back inside, and Satoru waits until she's gone to check the bin. He finds Hinazuki's name tag and gloves in the trash, and is reminded of the birthday present she promised him. He's horrified and screams as he runs back home, but suddenly he finds himself back in the future. He realizes he has time traveled, and manages to avoid being caught by the police. When he returns home, he sees that the police are already there and runs away. Satoru goes to his manager's place to lay low, although he peeks out the window and finds out that it was a trap for him to get arrested. He's able to escape, and Ari meets Satoru and takes his phone, turning it off to prevent him from being tracked. She takes him to her apartment since she lives alone, and reassures him that she doesn't believe he killed his mother. Ari gives Satoru the book he bought from the bookstore, and he realizes that it has changed when he reaches the page about the kidnapping case. In the new version of the book, Hinazuki is 11 years old and disappeared on March 3rd, which means that Satoru has changed the future. Ari's boss tells her that he believes that Satoru is innocent and advises Ari to help him if she sees him. However, when Satoru returns to Ari's apartment, he doesn't realize that her boss is watching him. Just as the boss is about to report Satoru, Ari takes his phone and breaks it before walking away. With the fear that the manager will still call the police, Satoru goes to hide under a bridge. Ari leaves to get a change of clothes for him from her home. As Satoru is waiting for Ari, she receives a message from his mother's phone saying, "Satoru here, stay right where you are." However, Ari realizes that the message is from the killer who has his mother's phone. She then sees smoke coming from her door, and upon opening it, she is met with a raging fire, and she collapses. Satoru comes to Ari's house seeing a huge fire, and overhears that she is still in there. He runs in and finds her unconscious on the ground. As he's taking her out, Ari slides her phone into Satoru's pocket, and the manager also comes in to help, telling Satoru to head out the back so he doesn't get caught. Satoru makes it to a parking lot, then checks her phone and realizes the killer perfectly framed Satoru for the fire. Satoru goes to meet a man named Sawada, who used to work with Satoru's mom. Sawada tells him that he doesn't suspect Satoru of killing his mother, and he knows her mother wouldn't raise a killer. They then start discussing the murders of Hinazuki Kayo, Nakanishi Aya, and Sugita Hiromi. Sawada also tells him that he knows the murders weren't committed by Yuki, but by a man who is a master at framing people. Ari wakes up on a hospital bed, and as she sneaks out, she hears people talking about how Satoru tried to silence her. He then looks at a list of suspects for the kidnappings of the kids, and sees Yuki, or Shiratori Jun, and his father. Ari then calls Satoru, telling him to meet at the place. They both arrive, and Ari tells him that she believes the most suspicious is someone named Nishizono, although Satoru didn't see that name on the suspect list. The police then arrive and handcuff him. As Satoru walks to the police car, Ari apologizes for accidentally leading the cops to him. While walking, he then sees the killer, standing right beside all of them. On February 29, 1988, Satoru finds himself transported back to 5th grade, where his friend Hinazuki is still alive. Kenya asks Satoru if he has finished reading the book he lent him, but Satoru says he hasn't. The next day, Kenya then says that he never actually gave Satoru a book. "Just who are you exactly?" he asks. And Satoru replies, "A superhero," and he laughs. Satoru then tells him that Hinazuki is going to be murdered. Later, Hinazuki and him celebrate their birthday party again like last time. Although midway through, he says he's going to go back to school as he forgot something, but he actually goes to Yuki's workplace and throws a rock with a message saying, "I'll kill you," wrapped in paper. Yuki calls the police for help, giving him an alibi for the night of Hinazuki's planned murder. Satoru thinks to himself that this should prevent Hinazuki from being killed. Satoru then sees Hinazuki's mother and is planning to attack, but Kenya intervenes and stops him. As the birthday celebration ends, Satoru decides to take Hinazuki to an old bus that used to be an ice hockey club. They set up a stove and lights inside to keep Hinazuki Hinazuki warm, and Satoru promises to protect her. The next day, Hinazuki is absent from school, and Satoru and his friends visit her to play cards. When Hinazuki is alone and asleep at night, a man enters the bus. To Hinazuki's fear, the man throws his bag and kicks a box, leaving in anger. The next morning, Satoru's mother wakes up early as he knows Satoru will want to go to school early, although he doesn't tell her why. He eats breakfast fast, and his mom gives him another meal to eat as he'll get hungry before lunch since he's leaving so early. He arrives at the bus and gives Hinazuki the meal his mom gave him. As Satoru is going to school, he passes by Nakanishi Aya, although he doesn't realize it's her. At school, his teacher says he contacted child welfare, and he's going to Hinazuki's house today, along with the child welfare workers. That night, they all arrive at her house, although it seems no one is home. The teacher enters the house and believes her mother was there up until they rang the doorbell, where she escaped. Satoru and his friends are on the bus, and Hinazuki gives him his birthday present, which was mittens. Hinazuki then asks Satoru to stay with her overnight, as someone entered the bus and she was scared. They check the bag that the person who entered the bus left, and Satoru instantly realizes that these are items to kill someone. The bus is right beside the school Nakanishi Aya attends, meaning he was planning to use these to kidnap and kill her. He then decides they should leave the hideout for safety. Satoru then takes them all over for dinner, and when they're done, Kenya and Hiromi leave, and Hinazuki stays. She has a bath, and they all go to bed. When they wake up, Hinazuki sees a delicious breakfast, and thinks back to how her breakfast is usually things like plain bread, and gets emotional. That evening, Hinazuki's mother is shown getting extremely mad, destroying Hinazuki's room. She comes home, and as her mom is about to hit her for not being home for days, Satoru and his mom come forward, stopping her. Out of anger, Hinazuki's mother swings at Satoru's mother with a shovel, although only just barely hits her. Hinazuki's mother then throws Hinazuki off her, and is about to hit her, until their teacher and child welfare members show up. She gets fed up and decides she's gonna go to the police, dragging Hinazuki with her. That is until the mother of Hinazuki's mother shows up. She apologizes for making her break up with her abusive father and raising Hinazuki on her own. Hinazuki then leaves to live with her grandma, and finally, she is safe. The next day at school, Satoru is sad that he can't see Hinazuki anymore, and although he is glad he saved her, he would still love to talk to her again. Satoru's teacher and him then go in the staff room, and Satoru thanks him for giving encouraging words. Satoru then told him that he hid Hinazuki in a bus for a few days to keep her away from her mom. Now that Hinazuki is saved, he now needs to figure out how to save Nakanishi Aya and Sugita Hiromi, although Nakanishi is at a different school, so it is going to be a little hard to approach her. During dinner, Satoru asks his mom how to become friends with someone he doesn't know. His mom tells him to simply just go up and talk to her, and keep a positive attitude. The next day after school, Satoru starts following Nakanishi, learning her daily routine. While following her around, his mother shows up needing Satoru's help to carry groceries. While they're struggling walking with the heavy groceries, his teacher shows up and gives them a ride. Satoru also asks him how to become friends with someone he doesn't know, and he says make them less wary of you and show off your good side. The next day, Hiromi says he's gonna go to the kids center to do his homework, and Satoru says he'll come with. Kenya notices now that Hinazuki is gone. Satoru is like Hiromi's parent, following him everywhere. He talks in private with him, and says if there are other bad things that will happen, he can help. The three go back to the bus, and Satoru realizes the bag with the killing items is gone, and he tells Kenya and Hiromi that there is a murderer targeting kids on the loose. Satoru walks Hiromi home, and Hiromi tells him he believes Satoru that there is a murderer, and says he'll help with anything. The day after that, when school ends, Satoru asks Hiromi and Kenya to go somewhere with him, turning their two friends down to hang out. After everyone has already left, Misato starts going extremely late. The three approach Nakanishi Aya, and all introduce themselves, and their two other friends are spying on them. Nakanishi recognizes them and says, "You guys are the kids that go into that building often," and they reply, "That's their hideout," and are disappointed it's that easy to see. Nakanishi calls it childish and tries to leave, until Satoru's friend Kazu stops him saying, "Hideouts are a symbol of adventure for men," and she says they're weirdos and leave. The next day, while they're at the hideout, Nakanishi shows up interested to see what their hideout is like. A couple days go by, and to all of their surprise, Kazu starts dating Nakanishi. That night, Hiromi asks Satoru if he's noticed how Misato has always been alone lately, and cut off from the class after she got embarrassed from the lunch money incident. The next day, he begins following Misato, as he believes she could be a prime target for a child killer. He follows her to a hockey game, where while she's watching, goes to the washroom. Satoru notices she's taking an extremely long time, and goes to take a quick peek. Then his teacher comes out with a lollipop. Satoru asks him where Misato went, and his teacher says she might have left. While checking outside, he sees a truck, and tells his teacher to help him and follow that truck, as he thinks she is in there being kidnapped. Satoru knows he keeps candy in his car, and goes to take some candy, although he sees none. His teacher then says, "This isn't actually my car." Satoru is confused and asks him, "What do you mean this isn't your car?" His teacher then tells him that he has noticed Satoru's lies. Satoru always tells him that he pretends there's a kidnapper on the prowl, but his teacher tells him he knows for a fact he isn't just playing pretend. He then also says, to Satoru's surprise, that he can't believe Satoru has been predicting his thoughts the entire time, confirming that his teacher is indeed the killer. He drives Satoru right in front of an ice-cold ocean, and Satoru knows what he's going to do, so he tries to break out. Although his teacher says there's no point in trying, as he made it so you can't take it off, and that it's game over for him. He then takes a basketball out of a bag, gets out of the car, and puts it on the forward pedal, throwing Satoru and the car into the ocean. He manages to get out of the seatbelt, but he is already unconscious and drops to the bottom of the ocean. 15 years later, Satoru wakes up to his mom emotionally saying good morning. He gets transported to a hospital and finds out he's been in a coma, and his mom has been taking care of his body 4 hours a day the whole time, keeping his muscles and joints in shape. The doctor asks him what he last remembers, although his memory is extremely blurry and can't remember anything. His mother then tells him he has visitors, and it turns out to be Kenya and Hiromi. They chat for a little bit, and Satoru finds out Kenya is now a lawyer, and Hiromi becomes a doctor. After some physical therapy, Hinazuki comes in and greets him with her newborn baby, and Satoru congratulates him. Hinazuki says Hiromi is the father, and the baby's name is Mirai, meaning future. She thanks him for everything he's done for her and his friends, and then takes her leave. Satoru then starts making amazing progress with his physical therapy, impressing another patient at the hospital. Kenya and Satoru's mother's former co-worker shows up to see how he's doing. The day after that, he starts chatting with the young patient, explaining to her how to muster up courage. People are then seen taking pictures of Satoru, while already thinking of titles for the headline. Although as they're taking pictures, a man takes the camera and scolds them. He walks up to Satoru and the young patient, and the young patient greets him, and we find out his name is Nishizono, and he tells Satoru that he was his 5th grade teacher. Satoru, not remembering who he is, chats with him like normal. Some days go by, and his teacher comes back to greet him. His teacher asks to talk, and tells him he knows a great place to talk where paparazzi can't take pictures of them. They take the elevator, and it turns out he took him to the roof of the building. All of a sudden, Satoru regains his memories, and his teacher smiles. His teacher then tells him he knows what Satoru is doing, as he has his pocket in his phone, assuming he is in a call with Kenya. He then says that the young patient's surgery tools have been modified, and they will kill her, and Satoru's fingerprints are on all of the tools. He then says he may save the young patient if they can talk for a little bit. His teacher then begins texting Satoru's mom saying, "Please forgive me for dying before you." Satoru then tells him the way he was able to foil all his plans is because he knows what lies in his future. He also says his mission is complete, and he beat him by saving everyone. Right after saying that, he speeds up and goes to roll off the roof until his teacher saves him. Satoru then says this proves it, explaining that his teacher isn't able to live without him, which is why he didn't kill him off so easily. His teacher admits he is correct before letting him fall. Now that Satoru is dead, his teacher is about to commit suicide. That is until he realizes Satoru landed on a big cushion. His teacher then immediately gets arrested. After finishing his time in the hospital, Satoru now makes a living as a manga artist. He goes out to dinner with all his friends, and after they're done, he and Kenya go to check out their old school. After some days go by, he sees Ari Katagiri. Subscribe for more recaps like this.